What happens when you start to lose motivation for your job? What can you do? Well, I've got a few ideas that may be helpful. Let's check it out. Hi guys, Daz here again. Thanks for coming back, and subscribe if you haven't. Yeah, I'm gradually building up the set here. Slowly. Still got a bit of an echo, kind of weird, but wooden floors here, so maybe for the next couple of weeks it might be a bit echoey. So, what do you do when you start to lose motivation for your job? It can be a huge problem, because if you have to do your job to pay the bills, pay the mortgage, etc. and eat, and yet you're starting to lose motivation, what can you do? Well, there's a couple of things that I want to speak about today. One of them is really what's probably causing that lack of motivation. Also, what you can maybe do to help the situation. So let's crack on with it. If you're losing motivation for your job, your normal 9 to 5 or whatever hours you do job, it's likely to be for a couple of reasons. One, it could be you just don't like the job and you took it because it's all you could get and there wasn't particularly a great motivation initially to do that specific job. Or you're coming to a realization point in your life, and it could be at any age, that you want to maybe do more from your life and maybe start a business or travel or something like that. And you realize that the job you're doing isn't perhaps the 100% wonderful thing it perhaps was before, and so you're starting to struggle with getting up on a Monday morning and showing interest in the job. And you know you have to show interest in the job, obviously, to do it and do a good job, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to really throw yourself into it, maybe like you used to. Based on those two reasons, the net result is the same. You're not happy with the job or that situation, and so your mind is sort of elsewhere. And as it's elsewhere, that's where the problem arises, because you're almost daydreaming, you're kind of drifting off with thoughts of if it's traveling, where you could go and the different adventures that way, or if it's starting a business, what you could be doing and ways to maybe raise capital depending on what the business is. Basically, you're half-arsing the job, certainly from an attention and from a mindset point of view, because you're not completely engaged in that job. You're thinking bigger thoughts about what you want to do. And the longer this goes on and you're in this sort of middle grey area state, the more chance there is of making errors at work and making a mess of it, and potentially, worst case, getting fired because you're just f***ing it up so badly because your head is completely a different place. Whilst maybe in the bigger picture, getting fired would actually kick you into action for doing the other thing, traveling, starting a business, or getting another job. But when you do want to do one of those things, generally, you need a few of the Benjamins to help you out. And so the job is the place you're going to get the funds to save, or to at least have something to invest either in the traveling or the business or something. So you need the job also to eat and pay the bills, because when you first start doing something, there's generally no income, and so you need cash. So having the job there is kind of vital. But this is where the problem is, because you have to have the job to fund the traveling or fund the part-time business if you're starting it part-time. But it's also not what you want to do. The fact that you have to have the job makes you detest it even more, because it's kind of keeping you away from doing what you really want to do, but you have to do it for the funds. And that makes your mindset even more detached from it, and it kind of goes in this downward spiral. And said the potential worst case is you get fired from that job, and then you've got no funds to do the traveling or the business, and nothing coming in, nothing to pay the bills. So you're kind of in the worst situation now, because now you can't fulfill your dreams or eat or live, and a huge problem. So how can you address this major issue, particularly if you're at a crossroads in life and you go,
okay, I'm here and I've got this job, I don't want to do it, but I want to do that, but I can't just do it like that.
So yeah, how do you address this big issue? Well, firstly, like everything, it comes down to mindset. What you have to do is think about what you want and understand that, and also the reality of it. I know I'm one person for saying don't be realistic about things, but when I say the reality of it, I mean, what do you need to do that thing? Whether it's a financial figure, do you need so many 100,000, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds, dollars, whatever your currency is, to do that thing? And if so, how long is it going to take to get that in this job? So that will give you some sort of idea of time scale. Now, if you need something like 100,000 of your currency and you've only really got a couple of hundred left at the end of the month to put towards it, just simple maths, you can see it's going to take you a ton of time to do it. So that's not the most practical situation, because yes, you might be able to do it in like 30 years or something. Once you know what kind of figure you need financially to do the thing, whether it's the business, traveling, whatever, you can then look at, okay,
how can I make that money? What have I got spare? Can I cancel my Netflix subscription or other things like that? Where can I cut back on costs so I can have more money at the end of every month to put into the pot for this thing?
If that's not going to give you the right amount of money in a relatively decent amount of time, then you have to look at other ways to make money, and that could be a side project or something. And I'm not going to be talking about ways of starting a business, things like that, but the point is here is that once you look at what you need to do and then how long it's going to take with the job, at least then you've got an actual proper understanding of what the situation is. If you're thinking, well,
I want to go travelling, I'm working this job, I've got some spare money at the end of each month, I'll save it.
well, that's so vague. How long for? What you know, this, you can't do that. And potentially that will just go on forever, because you're being, I want to go travelling. Where? How long? How you're going to do it? And how much is it going to cost? And therefore, without knowing that, you can't know how much you can save and how long it's going to take. So do some sort of simple calculations, roughly. You don't have to be some huge, massive, complicated spreadsheet, but a rough idea. Are you going to need £200 or £20,000? And then said you can work out, can you do it with the job you've got and by cutting back on expenses and things like that? Or do you need to do something else, either a second job or maybe a side business, or buying and selling things between sort of junk sales and eBay and things like that. Gary Vee talks about it all the time. You know, how can you bridge that gap? By just doing that, that will immediately spark your mind into, okay, you know, action, rather than you thinking, oh, I'm just in this job and just festering away and decaying, but I want to be doing this cool, sexy thing over here. You'll actually be thinking, oh, I've got a plan now. I'm going to be in this job for the next 4 months, but I'm going to get enough money to do that thing. Perfect. That way you've kind of got an end date in mind, but also you've got a plan, and so you can actually concentrate on the job because you know it's not getting in the way of that thing. You're doing that to therefore enable that thing. So that kind of gets your mindset in a better place already. Now, the other thing is often said, well, should you just quit and take the leap? You know, the whole jump off the cliff and the parachute will appear, or the wings will appear. Go all in, quit your job and do it. Yes, fine, but you do need some kind of financial, not so much cushion, but basically a bag of cash. Because when you start a business, even a part-time business, you've got to bear in mind and understand you're not going to be earning money straight away. It's going to take some time, and certain businesses will take more cash injection, like if you're thinking about a shop or something like that where there's stock and rent and staff and that kind of thing. Is going to take quite a lot of money to kind of get going, which you might need financing either from yourself or a bank, or even if you're doing something like internet marketing where there's really hardly any financial injection at the beginning, but both ways you're not going to be pulling in big bucks from day one. You're going to be doing the grind, working away and building up to actually getting the income in. So I've digressed a little bit there, but the point being, when you're losing motivation in your job because you want to do other things, often it's because you've got this dream or this idea of doing this thing, but you haven't solidified the idea of what specifically you want to do and how you're going to do it. I said like some sort of plan, and particularly often it's the case where you don't actually know how much it's going to cost. So whilst you've got this dream, this sort of non-tangible idea floating around, your mind is sort of up in the clouds with this, and nothing wrong being up in the clouds, but on this vague idea, and it is really like dreamland because it's easy, you know, doing a job that may be dull, boring, but you're doing it all this lovely dream vision. Of course you're going to be seduced by that, and you're not going to be putting the attention, and that's going to take your motivation straight off the job. Whereas once you've got a plan, you may still not want to be doing that job, but you know it's a finite amount of time or a specific amount of time, or you're doing that whilst starting something else on the side. You've got more of a grasp on what you're doing and why you're doing it, and how the job you're doing fits into the bigger plan of the dream, the traveling, or the business, or whatever. And once you've got that, that helps you to then refocus and get some motivation back into the job, because you know it's part of the bigger plan, not just something that you're having to do, but you want to be doing that over there. Once you start thinking of that, motivation goes, and said worst case, you get fired, and then you've got nothing underpinning your living. And then the dreams just disappear, because you can't think about that, you have to eat, pay the rent. So remember, if you're losing motivation in your job and it's fundamentally because you'd rather be doing or want to be doing something else, nothing wrong with that at all. But look at what you want to be doing, quantify it, and look at how doing your job will enable that to happen. And that way it's part of the plan. It will then enable you to get some motivation and focus back on the job, because you know there's a finite amount of time you're going to be doing it, because it's part of the bigger plan to do that sexy dream. So I hope you got some value from this. If you did, I'd love you to smash that like button so it's nice and blue. And subscribe if you haven't. I really do appreciate it when you do. And if you like getting more videos like this, you know what to do. Hit the bell notification as well if you want to know exactly when I release a video. But for now, I would say thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thanks again for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so down here, and check out my other video down here. And remember, live your best life and profit from that passion. See you next time. Bye-bye.